Welcome into K-State Online. I am Mason Voth. That is Drew Galloway. Thursday means it's time for a recruiting update, and we thought that it was going to be a pretty hectic one. Well, not too crazy, but it was going to involve talking a lot of official visits for K-State, but that's not the case anymore, Drew. So let's just jump straight into that. You sent a text pretty early on this week, maybe it was even Sunday, where you said K-State's going to move some of those official visits around, and they're going to spend more time doing something else involving recruiting. So let everybody know what it means that K-State isn't hosting official visitors towards the tail end of May.
Yeah, first, I'd just get out in front and say that this has been something that I think was in the works for a little bit, but just something that hadn't really came across us because we weren't really super pressy about it until I was like, I wonder what everybody's thoughts are going into the weekend, and then find out that K-State has elected to not have official visits this weekend because they want to have coaches out on the road. Remember, with how the recruiting calendar works, it's so wonky and kind of messed up now that a lot of May is a contact period, but a dead period begins actually starting Saturday night, where coaches can't be back, where coaches can't be on the road anymore. And the last day for coaches to be on the road is Saturday. And because of that, K-State would rather have coaches out on the road and kind of venturing out and seeing more prospects and seeing some guys for the third or fourth time, like Kingston Hall from Oklahoma, who we've talked about, a defensive tackle, was another one that was seen again by Mike Tuiasosopo during this week. And you don't really get that if you have all the coaches in Manhattan. So you're seeing more and more of K-State really wanting to go see their big time targets in the 2026 class and even the 2027 class even more than if they just stay, because I mean, we've talked about this weekend wasn't going to be a big fireworks weekend for K-State, but this was just going to be the first kickoff of official visits, where next week I think that there is a chance that you could even see some fireworks at the end of the visits. So I think that it's been in the works for a little bit. You're going to see some guys get an official visit rescheduled, some probably not. And I think that that's just going to be kind of the nature of how this goes, because really going into this weekend, the three of us had talked, and DYS, what do I think going into the weekend? And this was, I think, on Friday or Saturday of last week, just talking about the first wave of guys coming in. And I said, I didn't really expect anything crazy to happen. It was a weekend where there were a couple guys that you might get a commitment, you might not. A couple guys that I think that they were trailing for going in. So I don't think that this really hurts them in any way. And to be honest with you, it probably benefits them more in the long run to have the coaches out on the road. Remember, Oliver Miller committed during an in-home visit with Brian LePack this week. You don't get that if your coaches are at home waiting for the official visits to kick off.
That's true. So you're not alarmed, and you've alluded to it with various things. I think people have come to understand it, but if you're the first visit for a lot of guys, it doesn't lead to very many commitments. And it varies player to player, but we've talked about it when guys are visiting K-State last or something. And then we talk about, this team's getting the first visit, not overwhelming. So I think in some ways it's almost a way, because if K-State was going to get one of these kids that had the official visit moved around, then that recruit is going to probably find a new weekend to do it,
yes.
Or at least consider K-State. But anybody that doesn't reschedule, then K-State was probably not going to get them to begin with. I think there's a 99.9% chance that would be an accurate statement. So probably nothing to worry about then.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. The guys that they were thinking about getting or could get anyway would make the time to reschedule. And like I said, this has probably been something that has been talked about with the recruits for a couple of weeks now. It's just something that we had just happened to find out this week.
All right, let's move on then. Talk about somebody that is starting to get official visits locked in. And not shy about the number of them that he's locking in. Chase Campbell is a guy that K-State has made the official visit list. It's not the most exclusive of lists, though, because whether was it 6 or 8 that he's got scheduled in June.
It is 8.
He's going to be a busy guy. He's going to get to see a lot of the country. But what do you know about Chase Campbell?
Yeah, Chase Campbell is a 4-star receiver from Lubbock. Has been somebody that Matt Wells has been recruiting, I think, pretty much since he got to Manhattan. And him and Campbell go back to when Wells was at Texas Tech as a head coach. And that's kind of where that relationship stems from. Recruitment that's very, very quiet because he doesn't really talk much. He's also a really good basketball player. And then you see K-State went twice during January to see him during the contact period in January. They've seen him twice this spring. And that kind of leads to the official visit. Where does K-State stand? I would say firmly in the game. I don't think it's not crazy to think that they are not even like 8th on this list and maybe closer to like that middle of the top 4. But I wouldn't say that they're necessarily the leader, but they're firmly in the game, and anything can happen when you get an official visit. I mean, as we've seen, there's been a few guys that have came through to visit K-State, and you think, they're probably a little bit behind, and then they end up committing later on in the visit. So anything is possible once they get on campus.
We'll talk about another big-time receiver that K-State is on the trails of in just a second. But do you know which high school Chase Campbell goes to, Drew? I'm not trying to quiz you because I know it's Friendship High School in Lubbock.
Yes.
But do you know how you spell Friendship?
I think it's like FREN then ship. It's
yes,
not how you.
It is spelled like an illiterate, as I butcher saying the word there. An illiterate person would say Friendship. The history on that, because I saw that, I was like, that is the dumbest name that I've ever seen for a school, but it seemed very on brand for Texas because that's probably how some would say it in a Texan accent. Well, I looked it up. When the school district was unified, there were 3 rural districts that came together. This was back in 1935. They applied for the name Friendship Independent School District, but the application was rejected because there was already a Houston area school that had the name Friendship. So instead of finding a new one, they said, this is a great idea. Let's just drop a couple words, ones that are not significant to the pronunciation of the name Friendship. And that's how Friendship High School became a thing down in Lubbock, Texas.
Other schools, that'll get you.
So, all right, let's get on to another one. And this is really talented receiver, top player in the state of Oklahoma, a place that we know K-State is working hard with because you've got the Wells brothers with ties. Brian LePack has ties to Oklahoma. And this is a guy right in the heart of it from Norman. Mason James is a top 200 player, one of the best receivers in the country. And he announced a top 5 that most people go, okay, Washington, Big Ten, was in a playoff, OU, Texas, Missouri, SEC, all New Year's 6 hopeful teams, and then K-State in there. And K-State seems to be truly in the mix for Mason James here.
Yeah, they're also, I would say, firmly in the mix for Mason James. This is another one that K-State's been recruiting really, really hard. I think that if you go back and track since Matt Wells took over, I think one of his first offers was to Chase Campbell, ironically, and then another one was made to Mason James. And since that time, K-State's been kind of firmly in the mix for a while. I will say the hamper on James that you don't get with Chase Campbell is that Mason James, right now, the only school in the top 5 that doesn't have an official visit scheduled is K-State. So they need to get that done, and then you can really feel even better about where they're at. But to see them make this list, I think was kind of a surprise to a lot of people, but not super surprising because, again, K-State's been recruiting him for so long. Interestingly here, Norman North High School, kind of seems like Texas might be the one that's tracking it in the lead at this point. So we'll see what happens.
If anything, if K-State is persistent and thinks that they have a chance here, that's probably a good thing then, that it would be Texas as the perceived leader and not Oklahoma.
No, I would agree. I've had reservations for James for a long time because you keep hearing that his name is someone that constantly gets brought up about guys that K-State's really going after hard. And the one real hang up was that he is from Norman and has an Oklahoma offer. and Oklahoma seems to really want him. But in the last few weeks, it seems like Texas is the team that's really turning up the heat, which does that mean that K-State has a better chance? Maybe.
All right. Interesting news there. Something to follow, but K-State trying to make inroads with some top receivers. And, in some ways, I think number one, if you think that Avery Johnson's going to be around, you can sell that because I think it's clear that K-State has the opportunity. If you're a really talented receiver, you can come in as a true freshman and play immediately. I mean, Jace Brown did it, and these guys are ranked higher than Jace Brown was. So there's stuff to sell there. And in this era of NIL, you look at the four schools K-State's in the mix with there. I don't know what the strategy would be there, but conventional wisdom would say that K-State could probably give a little bit more of what their NIL reserve would be for the total of the roster to a true freshman receiver than Washington, Oklahoma, Texas, and Missouri, because they're going to have a lot of guys of that caliber, at least more than K-State. A guy like Mason James is kind of a dime a dozen at most of those schools. K-State, it would stick out a little bit more, but something to follow along with as the recruiting process plays out. We'll have more next week on a really deep dive recruiting front for K-State in football as they get ready for some true official visits after moving them this weekend. But before we get out of here, some basketball news to touch on. K-State has added their final assistant coach. Matt Driscoll is the hire. He's going to assume the associate head coach job that was left behind by Yorick Maligi after he went back to Texas. And this isn't an overwhelming surprise after Matt Driscoll's son Chase was hired earlier in the week by K-State for the role that Franklin Muskelly left behind. So he's going to be the director of analytics and all that stuff. But Driscoll has a past with Jerome Tang at Baylor, and he spent 16 seasons as the head coach at North Florida. And this is an intriguing move for K-State. And this offseason has had a lot of ups and downs, and probably more downs than people would have wanted. But we're very honest and transparent here with our thoughts about how basketball has things going right now. Again, no telling that it works, because a lot of the moves that we've liked have not necessarily panned out over the last two seasons for K-State, but this is a very responsible and I think heady move by Jerome Tang to hire a guy like Matt Driscoll, because there's a lot of experience in college basketball, a lot of it as a head coach, and this team needs kind of an offensive makeover, and you would hope that Matt Driscoll can provide that.
Yeah, on the surface, this is an awesome hire. I mean, Matt Driscoll is a really, really respected coach at North Florida, has won a couple Coach of the Year titles there, has produced some really good players. I mean, part of the reason that he is leaving for K-State, number one, is it's just an automatic salary bump from what he was at as a head coach at North Florida. But North Florida has also just been ravaged by the portal recently. Chaz Lanier, I think most people know his name in college basketball. Played at Tennessee this past year. That's a guy that started at North Florida. North Florida's best player this year is committed to Indiana out of the portal. So they've just been kind of ravaged out of the portal. So he's also looking for a place to go. When you get to that low major level now, it's a lot easier to jump ship and be an associate head coach for a power program if you want to get a power conference job than just continually staying at the low major level. And like you pointed out, they've had some awesome offenses at North Florida, and K-State's offense the last 2 years has been less than awesome. So you hope that works out, and you add Driscoll, you add Bill Peterson, and you really think to yourself that this staff looks like it's really coming together and has a lot more experience at a minimum than K-State's initial staff did.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want more on the Matt Driscoll hire, go to KStateOnline.com. Sign up now if you're not a member, and get your first week for just $1 of K-State Online and On3. You'll get access to all of our KSO content, which includes recruiting updates and some breakdowns of the Driscoll hire and everything else happening, as well as the national team coverage at On3. And we are getting closer and closer to being a month away from the full integration of On3 and Rivals, which is only going to kind of make what you get explode even more with your On3 membership. So certainly a great time to be a member of our community. And also reminder to finalize your plans to go to Ireland. Tomorrow is the 3-month out date for K-State Iowa State to kick off the season at 11 a.m. Central Time over in Ireland for the 2025 Aer Lingus College Football Classic. Tickets, travel packages, hospitality packages, all those are starting to go by and dwindle down to a smaller number. So if you want to make sure that you get access to all those because you're still thinking, I think I really want to go, pull the trigger. It's just money. It's really not that important, right? Money's, it is what it is.
Just a construct.
Yeah, exactly. So go and do that. Or again, if you're somebody that you don't need all the help planning your trip because you think you're better than that, then go ahead and just go to kstatesports.com and you can check out individual game tickets there as well. Quick Ireland fun fact to close us out on a Thursday, Drew.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of like a festival in Ireland that's called Ladies' Day, and I was like, what the heck is that? And it is like a series of festivals that are different dates in Ireland that are all about like horse racing. So it's kind of like how the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont and the Preakness are in the U.S. You get that in Ireland as well. And August 25th is the last Ladies' Day festival of this coming year.
Dang.
So if you're still in Ireland a couple days later than the game, you can go watch the horse races, which I believe the latest ones or the last ones are in Galway.
Oh, okay. We'll go watch it with Moby.
Exactly.
Man, that's unfortunate that it's a couple days after, because that would be a great way to spend like the night before the game or something. I love a good horse race. Yeah. So, all right. Well, disappointing that we're not going to get to experience that, but encouraging that everybody watching this still has the opportunity to experience the Aer Lingus College Football Classic in person. So go to cats2ireland.com for all of that info. That'll do it for Drew and I today. We will be back tomorrow as we continue our countdown of quarterbacks, ranking 25 of them that have all attempted a pass over the last 20 seasons at K-State. Numbers 15 through 11 coming up. A lot more names that you'll recognize, a lot more guys that have had actual playing time and specific moments that you will remember them for in purple, although a lot of these guys actually did it in white jerseys. We'll get into that at various points tomorrow as well. But we continue to rank quarterbacks tomorrow on KSO, so come on back, join us for that fun show, and then we'll hit the weekend, and it'll be a couple day weekend. Might have a surprise for you on Memorial Day. Watch out. Why is it a surprise? Maybe because I'm bad at math. More on that when we get closer to it. But Drew and I will get out of here for now. Thanks for watching today's show, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.